So today I'm here with Dimitri. Hi.
Hi.
Can you give us like a quick introduction?
Hi. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. My name is Dimitri Wing Paul. I am a first-year student at the EDS program at Georgia State University, and I am originally from Brooklyn, New York.
Awesome. I remember you saying that you transitioned when you went to school, so you moved to a new location, to a new state. So can you tell us about that experience? Like maybe if you had any struggles or any highlights from moving and kind of being in a new location?
It has been an experience. So to be honest, like initially it was a very rough transition for me. Transitioning from straight from undergrad in New York to going to Georgia. It was just a huge culture shock for me to be in a new environment, and also grad school in itself, it's a culture shock. It's completely different from undergrad. But I will say though, like I am better adjusted with the support of my cohort and the faculty in my graduate school program, which I'm so grateful for. And it's been amazing, like this semester, like it's been really amazing for me.
That's awesome. I'm sure it was really tough. Like I can't imagine going to like a completely new state, especially right after undergrad.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable, like can you share like a little bit about like how you are dealing with your finances? Like do you have like an assistantship or did you take loans? If you're not comfortable, let me know. I'll just cut this out.
I can share it. So I don't have money like that, so I took out loans. Yeah, I don't have money like that.
It's the reality of a lot of students.
Yeah, so like in grad school, definitely you would need to take out loans. But I would say though, for people who are considering to go to grad school, who are applying for grad school, or who got accepted to grad school, definitely search up for assistantships. I happen to have an assistantship, and it basically covered my entire tuition.
Wow.
And I receive a stipend at the end. So I mean, it does cover like the entire tuition, but of course like I have to pay like the fees and stuff, but it definitely paid off like a significant amount.
Can I ask like how you found that position and like what you do? Just like a quick overview.
Okay, yes. So the assistantship I have is a research assistantship.
Okay.
So like basically after I got accepted to my program and over the summer, I was kind of just researching because like I went to my program's orientation and they were just talking about like it's important to find an assistantship because it will cover like the tuition. So like I was going through this rampage, just like searching everything that I can find, and basically I happened to encounter a research opportunity online and I basically applied, and it was due like literally the day of.
Wow.
When I applied. Yes, so I submit the application in, got the interview, and passed the interview and I got the assistantships. But I would suggest for people, here are a few tips when it comes to finding assistantships. Definitely be connected with someone who is in a higher cohort, because definitely that was a resource that I happen to have, because like the people in the upper cohort would send me emails and just about like, and they would forward me emails about the assistantships that were offered, and I would apply for them. So definitely be in communication with people who are in the upper cohorts. To start, like once you get accepted to the program, start now in searching for the assistantships. And basically what you can do is just like email professors in your program or email the academic specialists for the about assistantships. So really be proactive about it and be immediate about it. So definitely search for assistantships as soon as possible once you get accepted to it.
No, those are some really good tips. So like starting early and then reaching out to people who have those resources. That's awesome. I hope people are listening.
Yeah.
Are you listening? I remember when we talked in person, you also talked about how your program like really promotes social justice, or they want to talk about like diversity and inclusion. So I was wondering if you can tell me more about how your program like implements it or promotes it, like within your classes, or maybe it's just like how they teach, or like how they go about these topics.
Okay, so starting off with that, I think there's a general conception that as school psychologists, we're here to primarily help the child, which is true, but to some extent, because like we can implement change to the child, but if we don't also implement interventions and change within the child's environment, which includes parents, teachers, and just like neighborhoods that may have an impact on their achievement and how they function in schools and outside of schools, that effort to only impact change within the child may be futile. So I think like with my program does a really good job is basically introducing us to different theories, and one of them happened to be the ecological approach about solving issues and like intervening issues. And basically the ecological approach is an approach that addresses the multiple systems that the child is dealing with, that's including their immediate environment within homes, their environments, and even in a political standpoint, and how those systems impact the child. Here are the systems the child is in, and how can we enforce and impact those changes, you know? So like, let's say like children who are at a disadvantaged background, who's at a disadvantaged situation such as economics, or like they may not have a lot of money, or like their parents are first generation, you know, immigrants. So they are deprived of a lot of opportunities that some people already have, you know. We have to acknowledge like everyone and different people have levels of privilege and levels of opportunities that can enhance their learning, and some people may not have those opportunities because of their race or because of their immigration status or their sexuality. So it's basically taking account to all those factors and implementing interventions to those systems and acknowledging those hurdles that this child may have because of their identity and the environments that they're living in are needed to be addressed.
Okay, I have a question for you. You can give me like your personal opinion or like what the program is like encouraging, but do you think it's like the school psychologist's job or role to tackle those problems, or like how those are really big issues? And like I do agree, like they're not in the best situations for learning or for being successful, but how do we help those children, like if they're in like a lower socioeconomic class, or if they don't have, you know, certain resources at home? I mean, what do you think?
That is a fair question, because it is like we are dealing with huge issues, and I think definitely we do not have to do it alone. You know, the key is to like collaborate with different professionals. So like in schools, you typically work with other helping professionals like social workers, and particularly you can collaborate with these different professionals within schools to enforce change and promote advocacy for the children and families and communities, you know, so like you don't have to do it alone.
So for my program, we have like a multiculturalism class where we discuss like uncomfortable topics. So we'll talk about like racism and diversity and how we're going to change the schools and like people's thinking, and make sure students aren't being discriminated against and they're in the best learning environment. And it really took us some time to become comfortable talking about these topics as a class, even though we've been together for so long. You know, it's still like uncomfortable, especially when it's like a mixed group of people. Like, we're all in different walks of life. I would say 50% of our class are people of color. And I think it's easier for like similar people to talk about these issues, but when you're all mixed together, like, you don't want to offend anyone, and you know, if you don't feel like it's safe. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we've been able to have really good discussions based on like research and articles and, you know, books, things like that. And we'll also watch a lot of videos, but those things kind of fuel our discussion. So it's been really good. I think my program's going in the right direction. I just wish like every single class kind of had like a different lens or like a perspective of like multiculturalism. But I would say my class is pretty diverse, and that's like a really great start. And I don't know what your class population is like, but if you want to kind of give us a little insight.
I was gonna say my class population, I would say like we are diverse in terms of culture and like our race. In terms of gender, I'm one out of two guys there. But definitely I would say like we all come from different walks of life, and people who are new to the graduate school scene is that people come from different walks of life. You know, people, they may, you know, be teachers in their past, or they may, you know, take a year off and trying to like figure out what's going on with their life. Or they could be like people who like me, myself, who went straight from undergrad to grad school. So like you have like these different walks of life and different people who are in different stages at their lives. And of course with that you have different perspectives, you have different levels of privilege, you have different levels of perspective. And I think it is super effective, contrary to popular belief, that you need to have dialogues and conversations when it comes to diversity issues with diverse populations. You know, you need to have like those type of conversations with different types of people, so that people can become aware of their values, they can become aware of their own perspective, and how that perspective can be limited to addressing certain issues. So like the key is to understand what different people are coming from and their beliefs and their thoughts, in order to encapsulate this appreciation and advocacy for diversity within schools and for the students. So definitely, like, I commend your program as well to have to take more steps, at least to like discuss about those issues, because it's not like these issues are invisible, you know. Race is a real thing.
It's like a big elephant in the room that like a lot of people don't talk about. But like it's obviously like it's been a thing in our country for so long. So
yes, and it's definitely discrimination, you know, stigma, especially children with disability. You know, like there's just like a huge range of issues and diversity issues that we need to talk about, and we need to be uncomfortable. We need to be uncomfortable to be comfortable working in different types of populations. You know, you just can't be in your own box. You just can't, you know. You can't be in your own box of thinking. You can't be in your own box of what you believe in. Like, you need to be, I think it's imperative as professionals for us to be as responsible learners and just be advocates for diversity issues.
Yeah, and ultimately it's for the students, right?
Yes.
High five.
Yeah.
You kind of answered it. It was, why do you think...
I can answer it again.
Yeah, it's like, why do you think diversity and like equity training is so important in our field? And we said it's for the children.
The actions that we do, what we think, like, okay, it's just an immediate remedy or solution to the problem. We have to make sure that we have to consider the future implications. And what I mean by that too, specifically, because one of our jobs as school psychologists is special education eligibility, you know, and through the assessment process, we are responsible for special education eligibility for students that need those services. I read a lot of articles from my classes that state like there's a huge number of misclassifications in special education.
Yes.
And that can have an impact on the students. And I was also going to say, like, what I learned from my classes too is that Black populations, minority groups also happen to be misclassified, and they happen to experience higher disciplinary actions that are not justified. So that's why it's important to be not only for us as school psychologists, but within schools, be aware of our implicit biases, because we have to understand that like these implicit biases are socialized. You know, we are taught to classify people into boxes, and that can be a dangerous thing, especially like for Black students. They could be immediately assumed as children who are just deviant and children who are just, you know, out of order. And
yeah, I mean, a lot of times they're labeled like the bad kid, or like, oh, make sure you watch out for that kid. And that is very inappropriate, especially for a staff member or a teacher to do those things. They really have to check their implicit bias.
100%, you know, so that's why it's important for us as professionals to be aware of our internal experiences, whether it's our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and just evaluate basically a course of action, or just like to consider, just to think before you make a decision, because every decision you make has an impact on the child. Whether if it's in the present or the future, it has an impact. Every action you make has an impact. So that's why it's important to just become self-aware, and also be mindful of the decisions that you would make as school professionals. Yeah.
I mean, this is like a huge, like, hot topic in like so many schools. Disproportionality in like discipline and special education, certain populations being referred way too much, like ELL students, African American students. And so, I mean, that's a huge one. And I feel like for us to get this kind of training, we're supposed to go into the schools as agents of change. And so, I mean, that's like, it's a huge role and like a heavy burden, but I feel like that's why they're training us. And we do have to like find allies and collaborate for change to happen. But wow. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yes. So we definitely need more school psychologists in the field. There's a shortage. There's not a lot of school psychologists that are there in the schools, and we need a lot more to help the students, because I feel like childhood and adolescence are crucial developmental periods. So I think it's important, super important, to help students and children when they are young, so you can have a preventative approach rather than a reactive approach to solve those issues, or like to help children before, you know, they may experience problems, severe problems in adulthood.
It's good, and we need more guys in the field.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks for being one of those out there, you know.
Gotta represent.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on my channel. It was an honor to, you know, do this session with you, and I feel like a lot of people will learn a lot from our conversation. So thanks.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye.